Hey guys, Susan Thomas here, and today I want to talk to you about wrapping pearls onto leather. So today I'm going to talk to you guys about wrapping pearls onto leather. It's a really fun technique that I think you'll really enjoy because you can do all kinds of different things once you learn the technique. You can make wrap bracelets like this one, you can make necklaces, you can make earrings. It's really, really fun and exciting and really easy. So I'm going to show you how to wrap the pearls onto the leather, and I'm also going to show you how to attach a clasp on either end so you can make them into jewelry. Now, you're going to need a few supplies, but not a lot. It's really simple and not a lot of tools involved. You're going to need a flush cutter and a chain nose plier. And then you're going to need some pearls and some leather. Now, if you want to do a wrap bracelet like the one I'm wearing, you're going to need about 6 feet of leather because you're going to want to make it nice and long. And if you do that, you can also use it as a necklace, which is kind of cool. You're also going to need some 24 gauge craft wire. And I'm using gold to do this because I think it looks pretty with the leather I have and the pearls, but that's up to you. All right, so I'm gonna get started working with this leather, and this is a 1.5 millimeter leather, which works really great for these wrap bracelets. I don't want you to get all wrapped up about making a really long one like the one I'm making today. I'm gonna make one that's about 6 feet long, and that's just what I'm into right now because I love to wrap them around my wrist a bunch of times like this. But you don't have to go crazy like that. You can just make a short one and do a very simple bracelet or a simple necklace with the same technique. But what I'm going to do is I'm going to show you how to attach a clasp, and then I'm going to show you how to wrap the pearls onto the leather, and you will be able to do whatever you want with the technique. So first of all, I'm going to take some 24 gauge wire, and I'm just going to use about 3 inches of the wire, just like that. And I'm going to have to take a little bit of leather. See how I kind of made that into a point like that? All right, so you're just going to put the leather through the ring or jump ring on your clasp and fold it over like so. So you've kind of you're making a little loop to hold your clasp. And then you're going to take your 24 gauge wire and you're going to put it through the inside of this leather. So I don't want it on top or bottom. I'm going through the leather like that and kind of sandwiching it in there. And then I'm going to hold both ends and wrap the leather around both pieces of the leather cord. And I usually go about 4 times. So just kind of keep them kind of neat because I think it looks prettier if you do that. And then you're going to take the end and push it through that little loop and pull it through on the other side. And we're just going to kind of squeeze that all together. Now the reason I did it like that is because now what we're going to do is we're going to trim off the excess wire on the inside so that you never see it again. And that way it won't poke you in the arm when you're wearing it or pick your sweater or anything like that. So I'm just going to take my flush cutter and trim that off down inside there. And same thing on that first piece. So see, I've got this first piece right here. I'm just going to make sure that's right between those 2 pieces of leather. Trim it off using my flush cutter. I usually take my chain nose plier and just kind of squish that up in there like so, and squeeze all the pieces together so it looks like that, and then you've got a little place for your clasp to hang. And then that's kind of long, so I'm going to trim that off with my flush cutter. So now I'm ready to go. And you can see we'll do that same thing on the other side to attach the clasp as well. Now for me, when I'm making the wrap bracelet, sometimes I don't even go crazy like this. I don't even put a clasp on it. I just see this one I have just tied underneath. It just kind of depends. If I wanted to make just a single bracelet where I was just wrapping this around one time, I would definitely want the clasp. And if I was gonna make a necklace, I would definitely want the clasp. So now we're gonna start adding the pearls to the leather. And that's really similar to how I added the clasp, but just a little bit different. So you're going to cut yourself another little piece of 24 gauge wire. And if you wonder why I'm using 24 gauge wire, it's because it's fairly thin. It's about a 1/2 millimeter, and it always, or almost always, fits through my pearls. And I'm using about a 7 millimeter rice-shaped pearl to do this, and pearls have a tendency to have kind of small holes. So this 24 gauge fits through perfect. So now what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna go about 2.5 inches from that very first wrap. And I am going to start wrapping the wire on here. So just give yourself a tail like that. And that way you have something to hold on to. The hardest thing to do in wire wrapping is, like, a lot of people try to take the very tip of the wire and start wrapping from there, and it's almost impossible to make a neat wrap. So always give yourself a little tail, and then that gives you something to hold on to with your thumb, and then start wrapping. So 1, 2, 3 full wraps around the leather. And you see I kind of was pulling tight because you really want that wire to be really tight up against the leather so it stays. Then you're gonna take one of your pearls and put it on, like so. Now what you don't want to do is you don't want to just pull this over. You actually want to make yourself a little space for your pearl. So I'm just using my thumbnail right there, and you can see I almost made like a little L in the wire. And that way, when I push the pearl up here, it's gonna kind of sit up on top of the leather. You see, I made a little seat. And then I just pull it down on the other side, same way. So now there's an L on both sides, and my little pearl sits up straight on top of the leather. If you don't do that, what happens is it kind of sits up at an angle, and they don't look as pretty. And I want yours to look pretty, so do it like that. Now, what you're gonna do then is you're gonna take the other side of the wire, and you're going to wrap around the leather. But what I do is I then hold on to my pearl so that it stays tight up against the leather, and then start wrapping. 1, 2, 3. And I'm gonna end underneath, and that's where I'm gonna trim. So you can see I've got 3 wraps on this side, 3 wraps on that side, so it looks really neat and finished. And then underneath here, I'm just gonna take my flush cutter and I'm gonna trim off the extra wire, and I'm gonna do the same thing on the first side and trim off the extra. Now, I have a little tiny piece of wire sticking out here, and you do not want that. So first what I'm gonna do is kind of squeeze those 3 wraps together, and then you're just gonna take your chain nose plier and make sure that you press that last little piece of wire down into the leather. And that way when you go like this, you don't feel it. And that's kind of what it looks like. And so now for me, what I want to do is start spacing these evenly along the leather. And depending on what you're doing, like if you were just making, like if we were making a single wrap bracelet, I might want to go a little bit closer with my pearls. Like I might want to go every inch. But because I'm doing a long one, like the 6 foot long, then I go every 2.5 inches. But you could use other gemstones. You could use glass beads, you could use seed beads, all kinds of things with this exact same technique. I mean, you could make a whole stack of bracelets if you wanted to with all different kinds of stones, and it would look so cool. All right, so I have already gotten one of these started because this is long, and it would take me a really long time to wrap all these pearls on here, and I didn't know if you guys wanted to hang out that long with me. You've seen the cooking shows where they make brownies and all of a sudden the brownies come out of the oven? That's exactly what's happened here. So you can see I've gone about every 2.5 inches on my wrap bracelet and done the same thing every time. So there they are hanging out. And another thing I want to show you is you see how the pearls are not exactly on the same side? If you try to get them all on the same side of the leather, you'll end up with one on the wrong side of the leather. So if you just don't worry about it, when you put it on, it'll always look pretty. So now you probably want to know about spacing. So in order to get my pearls spaced exactly the same, what I do is I pull the leather down into a little loop like that, and then I just kind of mark with my fingernail. See where this one starts? That's where your next one's gonna start. You could measure with a ruler if you want to, but I think it's easier if you just kind of go like that. And now I know that's where the next pearl's gonna go. So I'm just gonna start here again. So I made myself a little handle. I'm gonna grab the leather right where I wanna start, and I'm just gonna wrap. And so the key to this is kind of like everything, it's consistency. Every single one of my beads looks the same because I made sure to wrap 3 times on each side, and it'll just make it look really nice and neat. So take another pearl. We're gonna go like this, and I'm gonna make that little seat for my pearl. So remember how I just put that little L shape in the wire and push the pearl up against it. bring it down against the leather, and then pull down on the other side, so now I have an L shape on both sides. And then, I don't know if you noticed, but I went over to the other side of the leather before I wrapped, so you can see the wire starts wrapping around on this side, and then on this side of the pearl, I'm going to start on this side of the leather. It's just a little bit more secure, so I'm just going to wrap 3 times, finish off on the bottom, trim, and then on this side, I usually get it a little bit wrapped up, so I'm just going to unwrap that and trim it off underneath, like that. And then squeeze together, chain nose plier, and make sure you squish that little end in. Just do a little test. I always kind of go like that with my finger. And that way I know that it's not gonna poke anybody. Because if you're selling these, guys, people are not gonna like it if they feel anything, you know, scratching against their skin or anything like that. So you wanna make sure that you test that out. And these work up really fast. I think this long one that I'm working on right now probably took me like 45 minutes to put all the pearls on there. So that's pretty quick. And so you can imagine if we made just a simple bracelet that just was gonna go around your wrist one time, you probably would need 6 pearls. You could do it in 10 or 15 minutes. Okay, so another piece. Got a couple more to wrap on here because I'm gonna wrap, let's see, 1, 2, probably 3 more on there, and then I'll be ready to attach the other end of the clasp. All right, so now we are ready to put the other end of the clasp. And when I do this, when I add a clasp to one that's wrapped like this, I always make sure I use some extender because people have different size wrists and you don't know, where the clasp is gonna hit underneath on their wrist. So you wanna give them a lot of options so that one size fits many. Especially if you're making it as a gift or if you're trying to sell it to somebody, you want to make sure that it fits as many people as possible. All right, so, and I find that the 6-foot wrap fits most average wrists pretty dang well. So what we're gonna do then is same thing we did at the beginning. We're just gonna take the end of the wire and put it through that extender chain and then just make a little loop for it to hold it. And then get yourself, already cut it, a little piece of 24 gauge wire, about 3 inches again, go between the 2 pieces of leather. So not on one side or the other, but between them so we can hide that end. And then wrap, oops, my little extender chain loves me. I use gravity to keep that out of the way. Just kind of hold it like this. If you try to hold it like this, see how it's kind of trying to wrap with me? Just hold it down so gravity pulls it downward and that'll keep it out of your way. So 1, 2, 3, right there. And then take this piece and push it into the center. I'm still not following my own rule, am I? I'm not using gravity. You know what I always say though, is I make rules for myself and then I break them because that's what makes fun, different jewelry, and it's what makes you as a designer. So here we go. We're just going to bring that in the middle so that I can trim that off so that you never see it again or feel it, or trim that off and then go between the 2 pieces of leather here. Just make sure that it's really right between there. And then same thing, I'm just gonna take my chain nose plier and kind of squeeze those pieces together because it just looks neater if you do that. If you have trouble making these neat, what you can do is you can make something called a bird's nest wrap where you can just kind of wrap and wrap and wrap and make it look messy on purpose. And then you don't have to worry about being so neat. And you could do that all the way along this too if you wanted to do them. Just because it's a wrap bracelet, I wouldn't make huge bird's nest wraps because I think it would kind of take over the whole piece. But you know what? It's your design. You can do whatever you want. So I'm just gonna trim off a little bit of that leather and that baby is ready to wear. So I usually use the extender, hold on like this, and then just start wrapping. See how the pearls just kind of find their little homes, like so. Pretty fun, right? And see, I could wear these 2 together. Wouldn't I look stylish? Yeah, I like it. I hope you guys liked learning about wrapping pearls onto leather. I think it's a really fun technique that you can do lots of different things with. Don't forget the tools and supplies that you're gonna need to get started. You're gonna need your chain nose plier, and a flush cutter. And then you'll also need some 1.5 millimeter leather, some 24 gauge wire, and some pearls. And I used some that were about 7 by 5 millimeter rice-shaped pearls. Thanks so much for watching. If you guys would like to pick up some supplies like the ones we work with today, check out the links down below. How would you change this technique up to make it your own? Tell me about it in the comments. Don't forget to like and subscribe, and I'll see you again next time.